guys, welcome back to my channel. As you can tell by the title of this video, I'm going to be talking about quiet quitting, something that has been sweeping the nation, so to speak. So make sure you stick around and watch my entire video. Saying sweeping the nation was a bit dramatic, but you know what I mean. It's a phenomenon that everyone has been talking about, whether it's on TikTok or even news articles such as Fortune. Speaking of Fortune.com, there was an article talking about Ford Automotors and how they're offering their employees who have been working for at least 8 years the opportunity to either take a severance package, which was a lump sum of money, or they could go through this performance improvement program where their manager would assess the quality of their work as well as their overall performance within the company. And if they fail that performance assessment, they're subject to termination without the severance package. Now, what is this in response to? This is Ford's response to people quietly quitting, which doesn't make sense. I think the issue, in my personal opinion, is that people are confused on what quiet quitting means, and that both on the employee and the employer side. 6 months ago, someone on TikTok made this viral video vlogging about how they're no longer going to be going all in their job, working 50 to 60 hours a week when they're only paid for 40 hours, which is totally fine. That's just working within the terms of your employment. But they go on to say that they don't want to only be their job. They kind of want to just do what they're supposed to do and go home. This specific TikToker was talking about how instead of working 40 hours, they may work 30 or they may work 35 or maybe the full 40, which is also fine if you were hired as a 40-hour full-time employee. Full-time employment means that you're hired to work the 40 hours, but if you complete your tasks sooner than the 40 hours is allotted, you still get paid for those 40 hours. And based on that video, as Business Insider said in one of their articles, it kind of sparked this conversation about quiet quitting. I think within the category of people who are employees, there's two sides. There's the people who are actually just working their 40 hours, or maybe they're only working 35 hours and they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're meeting their goals. They're staying in line, but they're not performing any duties outside of their responsibility. That's called coasting, or what quiet quitting should be considered. Then I think there's this other side of employees who are working 20 hours instead of 40 hours, who are kind of submitting subpar work, doing the bare minimum in such a way that it's impacting their performance, and they're doing their job, but they're not doing it all that well. Now, let's move on to the employer. I think who the employers are trying to target are everyone in that category, which really isn't fair. In the article from Fortune.com, which I'll link down in the description box, they talked about targeting people who are acting their wage. What's wrong with working the allotted 40 hours you were assigned? Absolutely nothing. So what are my personal thoughts on quiet quitting? I don't really think there's anything wrong with acting your wage or doing the tasks that you were actually assigned. I think where the disconnect is, and there's probably a lot of people who already know this, it's that if you do choose to quiet quit, a lot of times it's at your own detriment. And that could be that you're not going to get any opportunities for promotion, you're not going to get any opportunities for a raise, and it's because most people who do get those promotions or raises are people who are performing the task of the next title that they're seeking. If I got a promotion for director or executive director of regulatory affairs, it's because even though I am an associate director, I'm performing tasks that an executive director or senior director may perform. And that's how you get the promotion and the raise. Now, do I think this system is fair? No, because if I'm doing executive director and senior director level work, I should be getting paid that salary now. That's also why companies have implemented giving people bonuses for their work at the end of the year. It's this whole catch-22 situation that I think is a hard concept for the newer workforce to grasp. And I don't blame them, because has the system really been working? Why should an associate director be doing the work of a senior director if they're not getting senior director pay? If you do choose to quiet quit, make sure you're doing a few of these things. For one, you don't want to get in the situation where you're like an employee at Ford where they're saying you're underperforming, but really you're just performing the duties that you were assigned. So what you should do is create an Excel sheet and get the job description that you first signed when you started working. In one column, put all the responsibilities that were on your job description, and in another column, put the date. For the date, you're going to put all the dates that you did something. So for example, if you're a project manager and one of your roles and responsibilities is to lead team meetings, you're going to have that in one line. The next line you're going to have when the meeting actually happened. And in a third column, I personally like to do this, add evidence, which would be meeting minutes from the meeting that you held. It sounds like overkill, but if you're working at a company like Ford, you need to make sure you're protecting yourself, because technically, even though there are at-will states, your employer should not be able to fire you for literally doing your job. And if they're trying to make it seem like you're not doing your job, job and that's why you were fired, you want to make sure you have evidence that proves, no, you were doing your job, you just weren't doing anything outside of your job description. Now, if the job description says other duties as assigned, that's where it gets a little tricky, because oftentimes they can assign you things that are outside of that job description, and that's why I say that line item is more often than not a complete trap. The other thing you want to do is anytime anyone gives you any sort of acknowledgement or praise in an email, you want to print that email, save it to your desktop as a PDF. Also, when you do your 6-month and end of year performance review, make sure you get a copy and save that. And the most important tip is, if a company is making you feel like you need to do these things for simply just doing your job, you're likely better off finding another job. Have I ever personally quiet quit at a company? Sure. But it was at a company where I A, didn't really see a future, and B, didn't care if I got a promotion or a raise or not, because I was already out the door. If you are choosing or thinking about quiet quitting, make sure you're making your own decision to do so and you understand what you want out of your career at your company. And don't just watch a video on TikTok that tells you to quietly quit and do it. You need to assess your own situation and then move from there. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Make sure you're following me on TikTok and make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel. Bye!